Hello, everyone. It's Dr. Nirav Pandya. A lot of Golden State Warriors fans have concerns about Klay Thompson's performance this early part of the season. I think it's a great time to review what we know about NBA players in terms of coming back from an ACL and Achilles injury. Now, the first important thing to understand when you look at players who have suffered an ACL injury in isolation, the track record actually is pretty good. Almost 85 to 90% of NBA players will get back with a relatively minimal impact on performance based on what data you're looking at, particularly when players are younger. Now, the story is a little bit different for an Achilles injury. Nearly only about 75% of players will come back from an Achilles injury, and those who do return have a decrease in minutes played, decrease in games started, and a decrease in player efficiency rating. Now, when an athlete has both these injuries back to back, particularly over the age 30, you have to have different expectations in terms of their performance. The most important thing, the first hurdle that needs to be clear, is that a player is actually returned to the court. It's not easy to get to the NBA level in the first place, and to come back over the age of 30 with nearly 1,000 days away is remarkable in the first place. Secondarily, for players who have come back from an Achilles injury, and Kevin Durant's an example, there is a higher risk of secondary soft tissue injuries. The fact that Klay returned last season and for the most part didn't have any large issues is remarkable in itself as well too. Now, when we look at performance, it's important to understand that when you look at what he may be able to do in the future, the data does suggest, even when you just look at Achilles injuries in isolation, there will be difference in terms of his statistics. You will see decrease in player efficiency rating, minutes per game, and games started. That's just the nature of the injury, particularly for a player who's over age 30 and has suffered both these injuries. But when you look at recovery, most players will return to the normal mechanics of performance or get back to near normal, if at all possible, during that second and third season. And that timeline is going to be pushed back for Klay, particularly due to the fact that he had two injuries and took a lot of time off this past offseason in terms of actually doing live scrimmage type activities. So we can still consider this early part of the season as quote-unquote rehab for Klay Thompson. We don't know where his ceiling will be. The ceiling may be different compared to where he was pre-injury, and all the data suggests that. But the important thing to note that a lot of players, particularly when they come back, if they reinvent how they're playing, can make adaptations in their mechanics, they can still be very impactful. I think when we look at his performance, not necessarily measuring his performance to what he was pre-injury, but looking at what his performance may be based on what we know historically. Being on the court is one great hurdle, and number two, seeing him come close to his pre-injury metrics last season in his limited time, I think is important to note as well too. In addition, the mental barriers will continue to be there for a lot of athletes after these kind of multiple injuries. So a lot of performance may not necessarily be physical, but also be mental as well too. The rehab process continued even in these second and third seasons, and we should hopefully see better performance from Klay as time goes on. Thank you.